Wow, that was a dramatic intro. Who has their popcorn? That's like a movie trailer. So, full disclosure tonight, guys. I was not expecting to be here yesterday morning, but things can change pretty quickly. And let this serve as an example to you that at any given point in time, you may be asked to do something you weren't necessarily prepared for. But just like when we give an answer for why we have a faith, we should always have some degree of preparation in us. So your only job tonight is to listen to the words that I'm going to be sharing with you, and my only job is to deliver them without messing up too much. And so if we can do that together, I think we'll make it through this. I want to echo what we prayed earlier for Pastor Lance and his family, and it's hard sometimes when you're called away for family emergencies, and so we are thinking and praying for him. And I know you guys are also. So tonight we're going to be talking about the next part of our In Real Life series that Pastor Lance started. He's taking the wisdom that you find in the book of Proverbs, the book of wisdom, and he's applying that wisdom, those nuggets of wisdom, to everyday life. How many of you feel like the things that you read in the Bible make sense to your world today? Or maybe a better question would be, how many of you are sometimes reading the Bible and you're thinking, man, this doesn't really relate to today? Does that ever happen? Is anybody brave enough to raise their hand for that? Ooh, I see some hands. You know what's interesting is that while technology and circumstances and politics and powers on the earth change over time, human nature doesn't really change. And so when we read Scripture, when we read Proverbs written towards human nature, the things that are in our hearts, they still make sense to us today because we have the same desires and dreams and hopes and problems that humanity has had all through human history. So we are all connected, at least in that sense. The technology and the opportunities to do those things maybe are different today, but that part's the same. So today we're going to be talking about influence. And this is an interesting thing for me to talk about because I'm a professional in the field of technology. I make my career with technology. And tonight, we are going to be talking about the effects of technology on influence and how you are influenced by technology. Stop and consider, for the last year and a half, since the beginning of this pandemic that we all are having to live through and that all of our families are having to adjust to, since the beginning of this pandemic, how much has our world changed? How much has daily life changed? It's been a very dramatic and significant change for you guys. What's interesting to me is that for the first time in human history, and I'm not understating this, this is really dramatic to think about. For the first time in human history, our primary form of social interaction is not face-to-face. That's really strange. For all of recorded history, when you wanted to communicate with somebody, generally you did it face-to-face. Maybe there were letters, maybe there were things that you would do from afar, but generally your primary communication was face-to-face. How many of us today, our primary form of communication is through the internet? Yeah, lots of hands. FaceTime, email, Instabook, and Facegram. You guys use those? I'm pretty hip on those things. But here's what's interesting to me, because I'm looking at it through the eyes of a pastor. And I'm always sort of wary of our enemy who roars and prowls around like a lion looking for somebody to devour, right? Because he has a plan in all of this. And what I'm noticing is that just like when you watch a pack of lions hunt a herd of zebra, do the lions just split up and everybody just goes after all the zebras together? Or do they focus on trying to separate one from the herd? Right? And generally they go after the weak or the young or the inexperienced zebra to separate it from the rest of the herd so they can have dinner. When I look at today's world and I see everybody spending more of their time online and communicating socially online, I feel like we are all becoming isolated in our little pods at home. We're becoming isolated not through our own choice necessarily. We are having to react to a new world. But it almost feels like we are being isolated. separated from the normal herd. And what are we doing when we're isolated? We are spending more time online. I've got some interesting statistics that I want to share with you guys. Since the beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, which is generally considered to be March of 2020, so 1 year, 7 months ago, 71% of kids your age say that they have discovered a new hobby or a new activity that they learned during the pandemic that they really enjoy. They never did this before, but during this pandemic, they have learned this new hobby, and now they plan on continuing to use it. Can any of you raise your hand to that? Maybe it's learning to play the piano, maybe you're learning to play the guitar, maybe it's reading a book, or, okay, I see lots of hands, so you all can kind of identify with that. For the next part of these stats, I want to bring up some volunteers to help me out. So I need volunteer number 1. Yes. I want you guys to pay attention to what volunteer number 1 is doing. Social media. Okay, have a seat. You're good. Have a seat. Over half of Gen Z and millennials, kids your age and slightly older, have increased their use of social media by 50% during this time. 50%. That's really interesting. Volunteer number 2. Everybody pay attention to volunteer number 2. Yes, there you go. Nice job, nice job. 70% increase in binge watching streaming media. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, all of these things that we use the internet to stream to our devices, to our televisions, to our laptops, 70% increase. All right, volunteer number 3. Yeah, everybody pay attention. So volunteer number 3. I think that's Call of Duty, actually. Yeah, good job. Good job, man. 59% increase in online gaming. Do any of these stats sound too far off to you guys? Or does it sound maybe like you might fall into some of these categories? 59% in online gaming. So if you were to count all 3 of those categories, social media, streaming videos, and online gaming together, all of us collectively have increased 15% in one of those areas, on average, 15%. So guys, that equates to roughly 3 extra hours per day doing these things that you did not do pre-pandemic. Okay, so again, I'm not attacking technology. I'm not attacking the ways that we have to keep ourselves sane throughout a day that's full of new things that we're having to adapt to. This is a generally difficult time for everybody, including your parents or your caretakers, right? Everybody has a way to kind of identify with this. But all of us are adding more of this consumption. That's the point. We are consuming these things. So, what are we consuming? What are we allowing into our eyes and through our ears to lodge in our brains and in our thoughts? Those things which are put into our brains are absorbed into our heart. So what are we allowing in? You are a captive audience when you are using these methods of media. Think about this. You have your phone, and you're watching Netflix, or you're playing a game, or you're on Instagram, or something like that, and maybe you decide, man, all of a sudden you realize how hungry you are. Or somebody interrupts you, or something happens that you have to stop what you're doing. Think about this. And you put your phone down temporarily to go get some food. And boy, your neck's sore. Has anybody ever had that happen? Because you were doing this for so long, you weren't thinking about it. You were just getting comfortable and using the technology, and you were focused, right? You were connected to whatever it is you were looking at. It had your full attention. It's a powerful thing for something to have our full attention, especially when you look at technology and you think how wonderful it is because it's free, right? Facebook is free, Instagram is free. All of these apps are free. All of these things are available to us at no cost. And yet, nothing's really free, is it? If you guys have ever seen that show on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, can I get a raise of hands? Has anybody ever seen that? Oh, your parents made you watch that? That's great. Okay. Oh, on your own. Okay. So I'm not going to spoil it for you. I recommend you guys take a look at it. Actually, Pastor Lance wanted me to pass that along to you guys. If you have a chance to watch it, you should. But the bottom line message that I wanted to share with you from that documentary is that our technology is not our friend. Our technology is actually designed to get us to spend more of our time looking at it, and it's designed to influence how we think, and ultimately, it's designed to convert you to a customer of some kind, a customer of many things. Your browsing habits, your time that you're spent, the things that you think are interesting, the things that you are watching and consuming are valuable pieces of information to advertisers because now they can tailor their ads specifically to things that you like. And they know that the things that you like because the apps are collecting all of your information. So now, at this point in history, you guys are using something that's free, but you are the product that is being sold. How does that make you feel? Again, I'm not attacking technology necessarily here, but there is a risk to spending more time on these channels. Okay. There's a correlation between the amount of time we spend on social media and depression in people your age. Why would that be? Why would we become depressed by spending a lot of time looking at other people's lives online? I see a hand. Yeah. Oh, okay. So there is actually a term for that, the fear of missing out. People are afraid to miss out, so they don't want to unplug for too long. What else? Why would we be upset or depressed by the things we see? Kristen? We compare ourselves to what we see. Is that image on social media real life, or is it somebody's very carefully prepared reflection of what they want you to see? It always identifies with perfection. Did you have something?
Yeah. A lot of really negative things on social media.
Yes. Bad things, negativity, that's correct. Last one. Yeah, you. Okay. Yep. Right. So for those of you who can't hear, that's a good point. So for those of you that can't hear what she's saying, when we spend a lot of time online, we become sensitive to what feedback we're getting from people who may or may not actually be our friends in real life, but their opinion matters to us. Their opinion on our appearance, maybe on the things that we've written or done, we become sensitive to those things, and even though it may be somebody you've never actually met in real life or never would meet in real life, again, face-to-face interaction, it can be a psychologically devastating thing to go through. And so there is a correlation between online and depression. Now, online use has increased dynamically and organically without the pandemic for the last probably 15 years, okay? But in the last year and a half, it has gone up significantly and dramatically. So here's my question to you. If there's a correlation between spending time online on social media and depression with kids your age, do you think spending more time online is going to make depression go up or down? You think it'll go up or down? Well, statistically, it would go up, right? Why is that? Again, these things we've identified, We are comparing ourselves to something that's not real. We are being influenced to think that things are important that maybe aren't really important. And again, when you are focused in on something that is feeding you with all this information, you are a captive audience. And what's interesting about that is you are a self-captive audience. Nobody has forced you to start looking at social media. You're just looking at it on your own. It's available. It's right there. I've got 5 minutes to spend because I'm waiting for somebody to do something, and I've got a couple of minutes. I'll get on social media. It's just a natural thing now. Okay. There is a quote that I wanted to read you from Social Dilemma. It says, "We've created a world in which online connection has become primary. Advertisers pay to keep people engaged on the screen. Advertisers want you to spend more time online because then they can get their products and their commercials in front of you. And that turns into money, right? There is a reward to technology. It's not all bad. The rise in dependence on technology has some good mixed in it too. You have the ability to stay connected to friends maybe that you couldn't stay connected to before, especially during the pandemic, right? FaceTime, social media, you're right there. You know exactly what's going on in their life. It makes you feel connected. Also, the ability to learn from home, the ability to take some of your classes online. Show of hands, how many of you have taken classes online over the last year and a half? Almost every hand. And I would wager that your parents or your caregiver, whoever you live with, has had to deal with this with their job as well. Now, 50 years ago, if you weren't allowed to leave your house and you could not go into your job, you didn't get paid. You didn't have a job. But we live in a time now where almost all of us have some portion of our job happens online. Or, because so much of the economy depends on online business, you can apply for jobs pretty easily that are online. The point is, we live in a time now where, with or without a pandemic, people can still make a living. But it requires you changing how you do your day. That's a big difference. We are made for human interaction. We are not made for online interaction. Human interaction is what God intended for us. Partly because it helps us to build relationships and strengths and we learn, but also because as believers, we are called to be a light in this world. We are called to live in a way where people look at our life and they see something different and they say, "What's different about you?" And we can point them to Jesus. You can't do that necessarily if you never have a chance to talk to somebody face to face. Everything is online. There's a little bit of distortion that happens. There's a little bit of signal loss, right? Okay. Proverbs 4:23. "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." There are 4 ways in which we are influenced in today's world. The first is media and culture. What does the media tell you is truth? What does the media and TV shows and the things that we watch, what do they say is a normal relationship with your parents? What is a normal relationship with your friends? What is normal when it comes to dating a boy or dating a girl? Or what's expected of you? Right? If you're getting that information from a TV show, do you think that TV show has your best interests at heart? People are influenced to act a certain way. They are influenced to dress a certain way. They are influenced to think a certain way. How many of you have a close friend in your life who you have noticed has started maybe acting differently or dressing differently, and they're becoming a little bit different than they were before? Do you think any of that, I see a lot of hands, is any of that a reflection of the things that they are allowing in and finding value in? You guys catch my point on this? Does this make sense? Okay. A quick look at Netflix. If you look at the shows that they rate as being TV-14, meaning according to Mr. Netflix, these are shows that a 14-year-old should be able to watch. Hopefully none of you have seen Big Mouth, Sex Education, or Cuties. These are shows that are considered TV-14. Imagine if you had a babysitter who came home and your parents said, "All right, do whatever the babysitter says," and they leave and the babysitter's like, "Let's just watch Die Hard all night," or whatever it is they want to show you. You know it's not appropriate, and yet if you were to go by the standards of Netflix, those shows are totally appropriate for 14-year-olds, maybe even 13-year-olds, right? Do we get our morality from Netflix? who's trying to earn money by selling our access to advertisers? So media and culture. The second way we are influenced is through our friendships. I want to read to you guys some scripture, some proverbs here regarding friendships. You tell me what you think about these. Proverbs 11:30. The seeds of good deeds become a tree of life. A wise person wins friends. Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Proverbs 14:7-9. Stay away from fools, for you won't find knowledge on their lips. The prudent understand where they are going, but fools deceive themselves. Fools make fun of guilt, but the godly acknowledge it and seek reconciliation. And then Proverbs 22, verses 24-25. Don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. Do you think Scripture has an opinion on who we allow to be our closest friends? Does it matter who we allow to be our closest friends? When I say closest friends, I don't mean the 500 people that are following you on Instagram that you maybe know just kind of casually. I'm talking about those people that you can rely on when you are having an emergency in your life, or those people that you want to share the best news that you've received all day with first. Your close friends, that's who we're talking about. Be very careful who you are selecting to be your closest friends. Closest friends are like roots of a tree. There are some roots that are really strong, and they will hold you up, and they will keep you safe. There are other roots that are rotten, that are weak, and when winds come and blow, you will fall over. Who are you allowing to anchor you in this life? And which one of those things do you think helps you to grow better? Strong roots or weak roots? The third, I'm getting short on time here. The third is on dating. And this one, Pastor Lance gave me this specifically to read to you, and I am very uncomfortable reading it. Proverbs 7. I'm going to paraphrase some of this. While I was at the window of my house looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young men, and one in particular who lacked common sense. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path by her house. It was at twilight in the evening as deep darkness fell. The woman approached him, seductively dressed and sly of heart. She had on her clubbing outfit. She was the brash, rebellious type, never content to stay at home, often in the streets and markets, soliciting at every corner. Keep in mind, this is not a specific person that he's referring to. This applies to temptation and lust that we see all the time. This could apply to us today on the ads that we watch on an innocent TV show commercial, or the billboard that you see when you're driving through town, or that thing that you see on a movie preview that you weren't asking or wanting to see, but it popped up when you were watching something online. Those things that contain inappropriate things. That's what we're talking about. Those things that draw your eye and draw you in. Now, this is not a woman who has good intentions for him. In fact, she's actually married, and she has a fragrant room that she has created for him to come and spend time with her so they can kiss and spend time together. And these are things that are not pleasing to God, right? But here's the part I want to skip to, verse 19. For my husband is not home. He's away on a long trip. He's taken a wallet full of money with him, and he won't return until later this month. So she seduced him with her pretty speech and enticed him with her flattery. And he followed her at once, listen to this, like an ox going to the slaughter. The world confuses lust with love. The world wants us to engorge ourselves on sensual experience. This is what the world tells us. If you were to follow the world's advice and the world's instructions, you would spend as much time with as many people as you could, and you would not have any modesty because the world laughs at modesty. The world wants us to show ourselves in a way where people derive the value from what they see instead of who we are. Does that make sense? How many of you have that pressure that you've felt in the past or know somebody who has that pressure where you feel like the world's wanting you to act or dress a certain way to be popular or to be accepted or to do things to make you popular or accepted? And there's a pressure. And the more the pressure is on you, and the more you resist it, the more you seem to stand apart, the more you seem to stand out, and the more you could possibly be made fun of because you're not following that path. It's a sad truth, guys. I'm sorry if you've had to experience that, but it's out there and it exists on purpose. We are living in enemy territory in this world. Netflix is not your friend. Facebook is not your friend. They see you as a number on a ledger for an account sheet, right? There's an ancient phrase that they use in the law called cui bono. Who does it benefit? It's interesting when you look at these things that we are having to deal with in this world and how many mines there are that we have to avoid stepping on and how many dangers that you guys have. So many more things you have to step carefully around than I had to deal with when I was your age or Pastor Chris, right? You guys have so many things that are just waiting in the dark to grab you, and it's scary at times. It can be scary at times. But you have a light inside of you as a believer that shines in these dark places. There is hope. So going back to dating, some of you have gone down that path of having to date or wanting to date. Others maybe haven't gone down that path yet. But here's my unsolicited dad advice for you, because I love you guys. Here's my advice. Think about dating as practicing before you get married. What is the end result of finding somebody that you love and you want to spend the rest of your life with? You get married. If you are dating somebody, are you practicing getting married with that person? Are you the same person now that you will be 10 years from now with 10 more years of experience? My suggestion to you would be, instead of spending so much time focusing on trying to find somebody to spend the rest of your life with now, instead, focus on becoming the person that your significant other is going to meet in 10 years, or whatever the number is. I'm not saying wait until 10 years. But what I'm saying is focus less on what's in front of you today and focus more on who you want to be for when that time does come, because it will come. God has a plan, and if you follow his plan, you will be very happy. Okay. I'm going to skip this next part of Proverbs 7. We can go to the next one. We're going to go to family. The fourth sphere of influence is our family. Proverbs 1, verses 8 through 9. My child, listen when your father corrects you. Don't neglect your mother's instruction. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck. Now, the temptation is going to be to wince a little bit when you hear me say, honor your parents. Do what they say. Well, you don't know my parents, Pastor Jason. Okay, fair enough, I don't. But this verse isn't saying blindly just follow them because they are the best, although most of us are the best. What it's saying is, in a world that is watching how you live your life, by showing honor and respect to your parents or your caregiver or whoever it is that's taking care of you in your life, by showing them honor and respect, whether or not they've done something to earn it from you, shows that you are respecting their authority and you are respecting God. That is honoring to God so much that he calls this a crown upon you by following through with this. Isn't that interesting? When you come home at the end of a long day from being with your friends or being at practice or doing something extracurricular and you come into the house, are you quickly running past your family to get to your room so you can close the door and plug into social media? Or are you stopping and sharing what happened in your day? Are you stopping and talking about your hopes and your dreams and the things that you've experienced or the problems that you have? Do you have that type of relationship? Or are you trying to get past them and around them? There are many things in this life that we cannot control. Who our parents are and the family that we live in is one of those things. You can't control that. You also can't control the bad things that happen to you in this life. You cannot control the obstacles that you face. Please hear me when I say this to you. You cannot control those things that happen to you or the circumstances that you have to navigate through. You don't control those things. But there is something you do control. There's one thing that every single one of us can control, and that is our response. What is your response to these situations, these obstacles, these challenges, these things that happen to us in this life. And that philosophy carries over to our parents. Honor thy mother and father. It's one of the 10 Commandments. It's kind of an important one. Not because they've done something to earn it necessarily from you, but because you are their child. Does that make sense, guys? If you spend time cultivating that relationship with your family, that influence on your life will be very dramatic and substantial for the rest of your life. But you have to spend time doing it. That leads me to the last part of what we're going to talk about. I spoke a couple of years ago about leaving a legacy in your life. And there were some scriptures there that I pulled out where it talks about making the best use of your time. The Greek word used in Ephesians 5, Colossians 4, Galatians 3, when it's talking about making the best use of your time, is exagorazo. Exagorazo means to redeem or to purchase at a great price. So when it talks about making the best use of your time, the image that you need to have in your mind is this. What if your time is like a family member that you really love who has been kidnapped by pirates? Right? They've kidnapped your loved one. They've taken your loved one away. Pirates. And the only way they will give that person back to you is if you pay a great big ransom. It's a very expensive purchase, but you give them the gold and they give you back your loved one. You have redeemed them at a very great price. Exagorazo. Time is a resource that the greatest kings in history and the pharaohs and all of the powerful people throughout time, it's the one thing they could never purchase or get back. Time. Time is something that we treat as something that we have to kind of just get through until we can get to the better stuff. But time is not something that you should squander. It's a finite resource. And what Scripture would have us do is invest and make the best use of the time that we have. These 4 different areas of influence that I've outlined. Social media and culture, right? Friendships that we cultivate. Romantic relationships or dating, and our family relationships. Those 4 things, if we invest time into those things and cultivate them, they will become very powerful influences in our life and build us up and make us stronger. The opposite is also true. If you neglect or are not watchful over any of those 4 areas, what happens to a table with 4 legs and you knock one leg out? It can fall off balance and fall over. Each one of these is an important area of influence in your life. And we live in a time where you are a focused, captive audience, and what are you allowing in? Thank you.